Hi, I'm Ashley,
And I'm Jade.
and you're listening to
Kill and Chill the podcast.
Woohoo!
Right, so how have you been?
Great.
Good. What have
Trying
you
to
been
think what I've
watching?
even been doing.
I know what you've been watching. You've been watching the same thing I have.
What?
The the
Oh,
Vanishing
the
at the Cecil
Cecil
Hotel.
Hotel. Yeah.
I keep calling it Cecil. I think it's Cecil. I don't know.
I don't know. I think every time on that program, I think somebody else pronounced it a different way every time they said it.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
I'm
my
sure, I'm
God.
sure a few people called it Cecil, and then a few people called it Cecil.
Yeah. Oh
God,
well. We'll just do
I
both.
don't know. That fucked up hotel in America.
I know. Oh my God. After that, I was like, after I watched it, I was like looking through TikTok at like Skid Row and like the whole area. And I
Oh,
was in
yeah.
shock.
I had never realised. Like, I knew that I'd seen like little snippets of Skid Row. Like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty in the Kardashians going down there. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. I thought it was just like this one like little street. I did not realise it's a whole freaking huge
Yeah. Thing.
like whole estate kind of thing.
Yeah.
Me and
Yeah.
Caden were looking on my brother, looking on Google Maps at like Google Earth view of Skid Row.
Yeah.
We were just like walking the little man down all the streets, and literally every single street is full of homeless people. And I was like, what the
I
heck?
know. It's so sad. But do you know what I did see though on TikTok? I saw so many nice people like
Yeah,
going to the homeless and that, which is really nice. But my God, it's a scary area. I would not want to
yeah.
be a woman walking down there alone ever
No.
during
And
the
the fact,
day.
like, I was looking at reviews, and they've changed it to that. Um, what is it?
Stay
Your
on
mind.
Main. Yeah.
Now they've changed it to that. So many people do not realize what the heck they're getting themselves into, and
Yeah.
they arrive there, and then
Ugh.
imagine being in a hotel and not being able to like come out your room effectively. Because even though they split it, they didn't think about the fact that you've got to share the lift with the undesirables. Um, you also like can't leave the hotel without going down to Skid Row and risking getting killed,
Yeah.
raped, or robbed, or
Yeah. It's terrifying. That hotel, though, it totally reminds me of the hotel we stayed in Manchester, where you go in the lobby and you're like, oh my God, this is so nice. And you go up
yeah,
to your room and you're like, literally feel like you're infested because neither of us slept that night because we literally could feel the bed bug infestation.
uh, when we left our drinks and we came back to our hotel and it was full of bugs.
I, oh no. I can't remember. Like, I swear I was like fully clothed at night because I
Yeah.
just didn't want to take my clothes
We just slept fully like we didn't sleep. We just sat in the bed, bolt upright, looking at each
off.
other like, "Ugh."
Yeah. I remember laying there, like, before we sat up, like, Ashley, are you awake? Yeah, I can't sleep.
Yeah. I need to see. I feel like people have been murdered in there. That was a creepy ass place.
Yeah, we should totally, like, find out. I don't want to name the place, like, on
No,
here, but I can't remember what it's called
shade.
anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna find
We
out.
haven't even said what place in the world it was in either. So
Yeah, yeah. It's a place with a really big wheel that I was very scared of. That's all
yes,
I
my
know.
lovely friend here didn't decide to tell me she's shit scared of heights until we were stuck at the top of the Manchester Eye
Oh, you just said it
with its.
was Manchester.
Oh shit! Well, it's still not the same hotel.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have been as scared if the freaking pod wasn't swinging from side to side as we were at the top, but never mind.
She was like, "Why is it stopped?" And I was like, "Jade, you're meant to admire the view. She was like, I don't like heights. And she was like digging her nails into me, like, ah. I was like, was this not your idea to come on this?
I got a bit too brave.
I know.
Oh dear. Anyway, I believe it is your turn first this week.
It is. Oh
Woohoo!
man.
Bring it. We want to hear it.
Yeah, my notes for this one are all over the place. So could be a shit show. We could do all right. You never know. It's me. But I've got England again. England.
Hey, England.
And I've got quite local as well. I've gone Oxford.
Oh, very local. Well,
So,
local to you.
well, not to you anymore. To
No.
me, to you. Oh, we're back on to me, to you. If you haven't watched last week's, you don't know the reference. Or listen to. You can't watch it. Right. So I have Ben Geen.
Ooh.
So the basic gist of him is he's a poisoning nurse,
Oh.
but he's only killed 2 people,
Right,
but he
okay.
has screwed over a lot.
Right. Okay.
So this is back in 2004. This went on.
Wow.
He was a nurse at he's from Banbury in Oxford.
Right.
And he worked at the hospital in Oxford. So my grandma's throat is already doing me over. Sorry. Great problems. I've got faulty human way problems. But I roll with it. Oh God. So I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
He worked at the hospital in Oxford.
Yeah. And 16 patients also survived his
Oh.
poisoning actions. So over the course of a 9-week period, he deliberately administered drugs or other substances to these patients to make them collapse or like go into some form of respiratory distress.
Wow.
It has been said that he used to like the thrill of trying to revive them. Somebody that worked with him has commented saying that he was the kind of guy that got a kick out of like trying to help people, but he wasn't satisfied with just helping the people that needed his help. He had to cause them to require help as well.
Wow. Isn't that called a hero complex, I think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Like hero complex, God complex.
That's it. Yeah.
The combination of the two, innit? The
Yeah.
God complex, want to play God and kill people off.
Yeah.
I think he was that kind of Dr. Death one.
God.
So, Green, his name's Geen.
Gain.
Now this person's called him Green.
Oh,
His name's
okay.
Geen. Geen works in the A&E department in Horton General Hospital in Banbury. And after a while, people started like getting a bit suspicious of him because people would be coming into A&E like completely fine. Well, not completely fine because they're in A&E, but like not life or death situations, like with a broken leg.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they're collapsed on the floor, having respiratory problems, and old Ben Geen is rushing to the aid of them and swooping in and saving everybody because he's so amazing. But in actual fact, he gave them the stuff.
Wow.
So he still to this day denies that he's ever done anything.
Of course he does, because he's a hero.
Exactly. Why would he do such awful things? But yeah, he started flagging up like people's attention and suspicions because so many people, well, within this 9-week period,
Mm.
18 people had become victim of his dodgy poisoning. And
Wow.
the two that died were David Olney, who was 77, and
Oh,
Anthony Bateman, who was 67.
oh, they're
Um,
both old.
oh no, and neither of them had gone in with anything that would have led them to die, but neither of them made it back out.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, because doctors started realizing that they could not, they started investigating because it got flagged up that the hospital was having abnormally high levels of respiratory arrest between December 2003 and February 2004. Like
Right.
their records had just gone off the chain. So, like, people high up were starting to question, like, is
Yeah.
this failing? Like, what's going on here?
Mm.
So then after that, they started looking into all the cases that had random respiratory arrests that were not fit into what their symptoms they'd come in with were.
Yeah.
And when they started looking into it, they started realizing that people had drugs and things in their systems that they hadn't been prescribed. And when
Oh,
they matched up with like the effects of what they would do,
yeah.
and would cause in a perfectly healthy person them to suddenly collapse and have respiratory arrest.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. And then it also turned out that the only person who was on duty for every single one of these
Mm.
arrests and who attended every single one of these arrests was old Ben.
Good old
Like,
Geen.
yeah, good old Ben Geen. He was the
God.
one that was always there. So then his colleagues started putting two and two together and being like, actually, he is always like he was just an like just a average nurse,
Mm.
um, and should have had other like like things that he was doing in between, like
Yeah.
more simple things. But all he had ever been doing, any of his shifts, was constantly high pressure cardiac arrests or
Oh,
stuff like that. He'd never been seen to be just giving someone a general bandage, or he wasn't interested in
right.
anything that wasn't high stakes. So
God.
then they started observing when things would start going wrong,
Hmm.
he would be floating about. And then the staff noticed that instantly he was always like there, like near enough pushing people out of the way to be like, no, it's mine, I'm doing it. Like,
Wow. That's like the
so then,
perfect job to have for that, though. That's a scary thing.
yeah, that's the
Ugh.
thing. And then I suppose if you're a doctor or a nurse, you're not going to think like you're out to care for people and whatever. You're not going to think any of your colleagues are doing anything but the same as you
Yeah.
and trying to help people.
Yeah, definitely. Wow.
But yeah, mad. So doctors couldn't explain the arrests. So then, when it fell on the suspicion fell on Geen, a lieutenant from the in the Territorial Army, who had worked with him before,
Mm.
and it emerged that also these kind of instances had happened when he was on duty with them as well.
Oh, so there could be more that we
Yeah,
don't.
there could be
Wow.
more that they don't know.
God.
Uh, and these are only the ones that got flagged up as being out of the
Suspicious.
blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, suspicious. Like, how many people who were generally unwell at the time and
Hmm.
he got his hands on and didn't get caught for? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it turned out in the end, because there was no one else that they could think of was involved or anything. So literally everyone said to the police, like, I think it's got something to do with this Geen guy because he's always here.
Yeah.
He then was arrested by police at the hospital
Good.
on the 9th of February. And whilst as he got arrested, when you get arrested, you get patted down,
Yeah.
asked have you got anything that could hurt me and blah de blah.
Yeah.
And what did they find in his pocket?
I don't know.
A syringe filled with a lethal muscle relaxant
Oh.
pocket, which would have the ability to, once injected, because your heart and your lungs are muscles, stop them.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my
But
God.
then, like, he tried saying, "Oh, it's um, it's just a thing. Like, nurses frequently accidentally take syringes of things home and stuff like that," which
Mm,
is true. Like, it can happen, but not generally of a lethal dose of muscle relaxant.
no.
So he was kind of wasting
Yeah.
his breath on.
God.
So one of his first victims was Robert Robinson,
Hmm.
who was admitted to hospital after he drank a bottle of gin and took some painkillers. So
Oh God. Bless
he
him.
was in a great state and wasn't doing too well. But then he stopped breathing because Geen decided to give him an anaesthetic, which he did not need. And
Oh.
also, already the guy's um, respiratory system and everything was debilitated because
Hmm.
he'd drank too much and stuff.
Yeah.
So then Geen comes along and makes it a whole load worse. But luckily he survived.
Oh,
Uh,
bless him.
Another one was him as well, the 51-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he woke up and survived him. He had no idea what was happening. Like,
Oh.
he had afterwards, um the police and that had to tell him, like, oh, just FYI, that day he was in hospital, guy tried to kill you because obviously he was drunk and like he
Yeah.
trusts medical stuff. Like,
Yeah.
he says, oh, you need this injection. Oh, I don't. Anytime I've been in hospital and they've been like, oh, we need to give you this, that, and the other, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
give me it, and you don't like question it. So like he didn't even know that this bloke had tried to kill him because he was
Wow.
drunk, and then all he'd seen was, oh, this nurse just gave me something, and that's the last thing I remember. Then he
Wow.
woke up and got told that the guy tried to kill him.
Wow. That's terrifying.
I know. They said in court, Geen was said to have been stated as looking elated when his patients went into respiratory arrest. Like,
Oh.
he even boasted to another doctor that he worked with, there's always a resuscitation when I'm on duty.
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh no. He used different methods to send his victims into the point of death, including overdoses of insulin,
Mm.
as well as muscle relaxants.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That creeps me out. Like the amount of times like, I've been at the hospital, like you say, like putting your trust in someone like that. That is so
Yeah. And you
creepy.
never know.
No, they're
Like
literally, it's like,
anyone can be out to get you.
yeah, like there's just casually a serial killer walking around the hospital and you're putting all your
This is
trust
making me
into them.
question now. Like
Yeah,
when I was tripping ball sacks and I was after I'd been in a coma,
yeah.
induced coma, by the way. Hence why I was tripping and everything I thought was not true. Um, luckily they'd pre-warned my mum, like, she's gonna spout a load of crap and you're gonna think, what the hell? But don't worry, it's just all the drugs we gave her to keep her in a coma.
Oh, were they
But
just saying
one of,
that?
yeah, one of the things was I thought one of the nurses was trying to kill me. Now I don't know. No, I'm sure it wasn't. Now this is making me question it a little.
Oh God.
Yeah. So yeah, he was thrilled all the time, and he always got a resuscitation when he was on duty. Uh,
Mm,
so the prosecutor told the jury that toying with patients' lives was the price Geen was willing to pay in order to satisfy his perverse needs.
mm,
He got a kick out of bringing people to death's door and then saving them.
mm. Hero
Yeah.
Geen.
Yeah.
Ugh.
There was a guy who was admitted with stomach pains and later transferred to the intensive care unit because they found the drugs midazolam,
Okay.
which is a sedative,
Oh right. Okay.
vecuronium, a muscle relaxant,
Oh, that creeps me
and
out.
something else that I cannot pronounce appeared, or another drug, all appeared in this guy's urine sample.
Oh.
And not a single one of these drugs had been prescribed by the doctors at the hospital, nor was this person prescribed it beforehand. So
Mm,
they knew
yeah.
somebody, aka Ben, had done that to him as well.
Oh,
So although majority of them survived, it was
mhm.
only the two that didn't,
That we know of.
that we know of
Yeah.
exactly. So Ben, when he was arrested, he still denies it. But the evidence was just
Overwhelming.
stacked against him. Yeah,
Yeah.
he had no chance. He can deny it all he likes. He got caught with a bloody syringe in his pocket.
Yeah.
So at court, they spoke to colleagues. They heard what he was like,
Mm.
and it was clear to see he had a kick from making people nearly die and saving them.
Wow.
So he then charged for the murder of the two people
Hmm.
and then charged for GBH or ABH
Yeah.
um, for the other 15. And he's been jailed for 30 years.
Right.
Fuck.
Wow. Do you know where he's in prison? Is it local? I wonder if he's in Milton
Yeah,
Keynes.
I was just thinking, is he in what's it called? Yeah, it doesn't say.
Interesting. Well, that's made me question all my trust in medical staff. So, cheers for that.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. You can't trust anybody. You can't even trust the hospital. At least you're not. I've got to go for a bloody pre-op,
Yeah, that's very
and
true.
I've got to have an operation soon. I'm gonna be. If I don't make it, you know they killed me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is at the hospital that I don't trust.
Yeah, I know.
I literally drove across the country to avoid.
Literally, such
Oh.
a great hospital. But yeah, it doesn't say where he's being held. It just said he was sentenced to 30 years on May 2006, and he's still there.
Well, that's good. Although he won't have that long left, really. He'll be,
No, because you only do about half usually, don't you?
yeah.
And then
Especially
if you've got
long
good
back.
behaviour and all,
Yeah.
it baffles me. Should get what you get.
Exactly. Oh God.
I never got any of my detentions reduced when I was at school because I was good one day.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I am doing
I will look up and post on the page if I can find where he's jailed at.
okay, cool. Awesome.
Take it away.
Okay. I am doing a really well-known one that actually changed the UK. I am
Oh.
doing the murder of Stephen Lawrence. And if you don't recognise his name, you will 100% recognise his photo. I will put it on the Kill and Chill Facebook page. So, Stephen was 18 years old. He was born in southeast London on the 13th of September 1974. He lived with his two younger siblings, Stuart and Georgina, and their parents, Neville and Doreen. I love their names. So
Oh, they're such a cute little
I know.
old English couple name, isn't it? Nibble and Doreen down the road.
But they're not actually English. They're from Jamaica. They moved over
I
in
help,
the 60s. I know, they have the most English names. Bless them.
isn't it? I find that a lot though,
Yeah, yeah,
randomly. Some people like that like foreign have the most English sounding names, and I'm like,
yeah.
what? What made you choose that? Surely there's so many cool exotic names, and you've got a
Yeah.
bog boring George. No offense if you're a George. My cousin's a George.
Stephen was a very determined and headstrong boy. He knew exactly what he wanted out of life. He literally knew from the age of 7 till he was 18 that he was determined to be an architect, and he literally never wavered from that. He was,
That's such a weird one as well, an architect at that age.
I know, he must have been like so focused
So
on it.
intelligent.
Yeah, he was. He was so smart, and school was literally effortless for him. And it used to really annoy his brother because his brother used to put loads of effort in, and he was like,
Yeah.
Stephen's literally like annoyingly smart. He was also really creative, particularly good at drawing, and he was a really keen runner. He was like always taking part in marathons.
Yeah.
Like one of them people, like, is there anything you can't do?
Like, come on now. Need something of us to feel good about ourselves, like.
So on the 22nd of April 1993, after school, Stephen had been to school, then after school, went to the shops in Lewisham. He caught the bus to his uncle's house in Grove Park, and Stephen and his best mate Dwayne played video games all evening. The boys leave to get the bus home at 10 o'clock at night. The bus they'd usually get wasn't going to get to the shop till like 10:30. And Stephen was like, my parents are going to kill me if I'm not home by then, because that was his curfew. So they
Yeah.
worked out that they could take a couple of buses and get there within like half an hour. So they decided to do that. And Stephen and Dwayne arrived at Elton, and they were waiting there to get the bus to Lewisham, which is where Stephen lived.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, their bus was running late. So Stephen weren't going to make it home in time, and he's panicking.
I've got the book of Lewisham many a times.
Ah,
Yeah.
you get about everywhere, don't you? You know everywhere. His mum, Doreen, this is so sweet. She never went to bed without making sure Stephen was home first. So
Aww.
I know. Oh, lovely old Doreen.
Yeah.
So Stephen crosses the road and he like walks down and he's like, oh my God, is the bus coming? He keeps looking. And Dwayne's still waiting at the bus stop to like flag down the bus if it comes. So Stephen
Yeah.
couldn't see the bus, so he started heading back towards Dwayne. And then he starts hearing racial slurs being shouted at him. I think you could probably guess the sorts of things they were saying, but I won't go into
Yeah.
that. So Stephen looks,
Humans.
yeah, Stephen looks over and he sees 5 or 6 white boys and they literally lunge on him. And literally, the attack lasts between 10 and 50 seconds.
What?
Yeah, I
That is
know.
quick.
I know. So quick. And Dwayne sees that one of the boys is holding something to attack Stephen with, and he thinks it may be a crowbar or something. But during this time,
Yeah.
the bus they'd been waiting for turns up, and there are literally people waiting at the bus stop who got on it, like, because they didn't realise, because the attack had been so quick, they thought it
Quick.
was just like a silly scuffle. So,
Yeah.
anyway, what one of the attackers had been holding was actually a knife, and Stephen had been
Oh.
stabbed twice, once in the shoulder and once in the collarbone on the other side. The wounds were 5 inches deep and they cut through two of his main arteries and punctured one of his lungs.
Shit.
Yeah. So Dwayne,
Yeah, that's your one of your main arteries from your heart, guys. Right up that part of your neck, don't it?
yeah, yeah.
Eesh.
So um Dwayne's like in major shock at this point and is trying to encourage Stephen to run with him. And
Yeah.
amazingly, he actually runs 130 yards, which shocked the medical professionals. And it must have been down to a mix of adrenaline and his athletic ability because he's a really good runner.
Yeah.
Then Stephen collapses and Dwayne sees a phone box. He runs to it and he calls for an ambulance. And Dwayne, at this point, he still doesn't know that Stephen's been stabbed because it's so dark and he can't see any wounds. He can just see blood. So he thinks
Yeah.
that Stephen's been hit in the head. So
Yeah.
a few minutes later, a police car turns up, but no ambulance, even though he
Oh,
called for one. So Dwayne is getting really frustrated. He's begging the police to help Stephen, but they're literally focusing on Dwayne.
yeah.
Like they're just ignoring Stephen laying there. And then the police call for an ambulance because it didn't come. And a second police car arrives, and the police officers assume that Stephen's already been given first aid, so they don't do anything either. And it's
For
like,
fuck's sake.
hello, it should have been given constantly until the ambulance arrived, but they're literally focusing on
Literally.
Dwayne. Yeah. Um,
God's
Wayne is
sake.
getting really irate because obviously his friend is dying on the floor next to him, but the
Yeah.
police are like holding this against him. So while they're waiting, two people called Connor and Louise Taff walk by and
Yeah.
they noticed Stephen lying there dying. So Louise knelt down, held his hand, and she kept telling him, "You are loved, you are loved."
Oh.
I know. And then 4 minutes later, an ambulance arrives, but it was literally just too late. They put Stephen on a stretcher and they tried working on him, but he had already died at the scene. Um,
Yeah, he wouldn't have had no fucking. You wouldn't have even be able to perform CPR on him because there would be
no,
no blood left within that heart to pump around his body anymore.
exactly. Yeah, it's really sad. Um, but Dwayne had wanted to go in the ambulance with Stephen, but the police insisted that he went in the police car that followed. So they get to the hospital, and Dwayne is waiting when Stephen's parents arrive
Yeah.
because they had found out because one of the people that had actually been waiting at the bus stop had been one of Stephen's neighbours. And he'd seen Stephen's parents and they were obviously panicking. So he told them,
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, we saw Stephen have a scuffle." So Neville and Doreen are like, "What? That's like not like him. What's going on?" So they
Yeah.
rushed to the street that the neighbour said he'd seen him on. No one was there. So they called the police and they literally tell Stephen's parents that they've had no reports.
What?
I know. So they
Like,
weren't taking any chances and they were like, "No, we're going to the hospital because he's not come home. The police aren't helping. We'll go to the hospital and see if he's there." So they literally turn up and they happen to see Dwayne and
yeah.
says they're working on him. None of them know that he's already died because they just didn't tell them. So
That's so bad.
I know. So they found out about 10 minutes later and they went to see his body. And Doreen
Yeah.
said Stephen looked really peaceful.
Oh. He was probably looked content and peaceful because that woman that was
Yeah,
saying you're loved and all that stuff to
I
him.
know. Bless her. What a sweetheart.
That's such a like cute little good Samaritan thing to
I
do as well.
know. What a
And
lovely
to even
lady.
think of that, like I
Yeah.
wouldn't even think to do that.
No, I don't think anyone knows how they would react. Like,
No,
no. But
true.
anyway, the officer who was put in charge of the case, for a start, shouldn't have taken it on because he already had so much work on. He knew he wouldn't be able to handle this case. So after just a few days, it was passed on to another officer. So they had to start
Yeah.
from scratch again. But on the night of Stephen's murder, they messed it all up anyway. Because the police decided not to go looking for the killers. They didn't want to knock on people's doors because, if they thought it'd be rude.
Just killed a man, but
Yeah,
wouldn't want to wake their
exactly.
slumber. Fuck.
I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I know. So at 11:30 at night at the hospital, PC Gleason wrote down a brief description that Dwayne had gave of one of the attackers. But this was the first thing that had been written down regarding the case. So bear in mind, it's been an hour and a half.
For God's
So that's
sakes,
just like,
everyone's long gone. So is said evidence.
exactly. And like they were literally more focused on talking to Dwayne than helping Stephen, as you know. So the
Yeah.
police questioned Dwayne for half an hour, but he was told he wasn't allowed to leave the hospital. He had to wait in the hospital in the police car. So then,
What?
yeah, he gave a statement for 4 hours at the station and he left at 5:30 in the morning. He didn't know
That's
it at the time, but he was being considered a suspect. They assumed because of his race that he had gotten into a fight about drugs and that Dwayne had stabbed Stephen. Neither of them even had anything to do with drugs.
oh,
They literally assumed it.
clearly gone on their racial
Yeah,
pigeonholing shit.
yeah,
And we're like, oh, two young boys from London.
yeah,
Yes, they're definitely in gangs. They're
exactly.
definitely this, that, and another.
Yeah. This mistreatment continued when Dwayne and the other witnesses were asked to give accounts, like the other people at the bus stop. Dwayne was the only one who was treated differently. They even took photos of him, despite Dwayne telling them it was definitely a racist attack because they'd been like calling them names and things. They just didn't believe
Yeah,
him. So sadly, they wasted all this time focusing on Dwayne rather than the actual killers. Their
oh,
reasoning for
ridiculous.
this is literally because Dwayne was a black man or a young man who was irate at the scene. And what they meant by that was that he kept shouting and begging for help and getting frustrated that help wasn't coming. I'm sorry, but anyone would be in a state. Like, if your
Yeah,
friend's literally dying, you're
if you're
begging for
literally
help.
watching your friend bleed out on the floor, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure you would not be standing there calmly going, oh no, it looks like he's dying.
exactly.
Hey, like, what the fuck do they expect? Are you going to be
Exactly.
there going, will you do something, you stupid people?
Will you give us a hand, please, good sir?
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, not to infringe on your plans for this evening. Do you mind helping me stop my friend from passing away? That would be fine. That would be
Honestly,
great.
it's just
Oh, Jesus
mind-boggling.
Christ.
Like, honestly. So the police eventually, after this like happened within the next couple of days, they become inundated with phone calls from people giving tips and the names of the killers, who they could be, because it was a local gang and they were really well
Yeah.
known. People were scared of them. So obviously, some people decided to do this anonymously. Someone wrote a note and left it on a
Oh, Crime Stoppers.
yeah. Someone else left a note in a phone box and told the police to check it.
Oh, they're really going inconspicuous, not even going down
I
just ringing crime
know.
stoppers. Gosh.
Ugh. The same names kept popping up, and the boys' names were Neil Acorn, Jamie Acorn, David Norris, Gary Dobson, and Luke Knight, and they were all 16 and 17 years old. So
God.
they were a local gang who were known for being very violent and extremely racist. So after a while, the police did start watching the boys, but they weren't in a hurry to arrest them or anything because they said it was just suspicious behaviour. And apparently, the officer in charge said he didn't know he was allowed to arrest on suspicion. I'm like, oh, okay, aren't
Oh,
you like the head of the
okay. So
police? But
every time that people get arrested, you don't get told you're being arrested under suspicion
yeah,
of because
exactly.
you're innocent or proven guilty. Isn't
Honestly,
every time you get arrested under suspicion?
yeah, it's literally just like the most racist bollocks ever. So
Stupid.
I know. So they, as I said, they start like sort of watching the boys, and one of the officers watches Jamie Acorn bundle a bin bag of stuff into his car and drive off. That bag could have been full of evidence. Like,
Yeah.
could have stopped him and searched it. But anyway, it gets to the 4th of May and still nothing's been done. Stephen's parents decide to address the public and they sort of out the police. And 2 days after that, they literally get Nelson Mandela involved. And
Whoa.
I know,
They are firing out the big guns.
exactly. And he literally makes a speech and says,
Oh my gosh.
like, the police aren't doing anything. And the police are literally humiliated now. So,
Literally.
yeah.
Don't mess with Mandela, man.
They finally arrest Neil Acorn, Jamie Acorn, and Gary Dobson. They find loads of knives in their homes and they take the boys to the station to be questioned. The Acorn brothers say no comment to everything, but Gary Dobson decides to tell the police he was home all night on the night of the murder. But his alibi
Yeah.
is quickly discredited because he'd been seen by people. So now he decides to say that he popped out just before midnight because he wanted to borrow a CD, but he doesn't know any of the other boys, despite being photographed with them a couple of days before.
Oh,
So
come on. Pull the other one. It's got bells on, mate.
yeah, he's not the brightest bulb. So on the 10th of May, David Norris goes to the police station because he knows it's only a matter of time and he's going to get arrested. So
Yeah.
on the 13th of May, Neil Acort's recognised by a witness in a lineup and he gets charged with murder. 3 weeks after this, Luke Knight's arrested at his home, which happens to be on the same street of Stephen's murder. So they could have literally
Mm.
done that on the night. But anyway, the police say there's not enough evidence, so they just kind of let him go. Um, but this is where we start to see how freaking incredible Stephen's mum, Doreen, is. Like,
Yeah.
is awesome. A year after Stephen's murder, I mean, she didn't just get Nelson Mandela involved, but she literally starts to think, I'm not having it anymore. And because the police and courts aren't doing anything, Doreen and Neville take the 5 suspects to court themselves, which like that just doesn't happen in the UK.
What, they
So
took them to court?
yeah,
The
rather
parents?
than yeah,
Oh,
them to court themselves rather than the Crown.
like a prosecutor.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Never knew that's a thing. Jade, I'm taking you to court.
the fact that they had to do this though shows what a letdown the
That's
police were.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. The family had to pay for it themselves, which really annoyed me. And then they actually had to pay for the forensic evidence to be analysed. So anyway, the family eventually get hold of all the evidence, including some that they hadn't even seen before. And this was video footage of Gary Dobson holding a knife in his flat using the same racial slurs that Dwayne said had been used on the night. And he was
Yeah.
reenacting on video with his friends the attacks he'd made
What
on
he's
black
done.
people. Yeah. So on this video, David Norris talks about killing and torturing every black and Pakistani person he could, and the A
Yeah.
courts are also seen holding knives on the video. So, to the court case anyway. Unfortunately, the charges are dropped for Jamie Acorn and David Norris as they say there's just not enough evidence.
Oh, funny that. If they didn't leave it fucking ages, there might have been some.
Exactly. And then Dwayne got in such a state on the stand that the judge decides that he's an unreliable witness. And that they say he may have picked the wrong boys in the lineup. So the I know the 3 men, apart from the 2 that let go, are acquitted because due to the law at the time, they can't be retried. So they don't
Oh.
give a shit at this point. They're like, huh? Like they're smug. So
Yeah.
let's forward to February 1997. There's an inquest into Stephen's death, but still none of the men admit to it. And at this point, right, the Daily Mail newspaper actually do something good, which you will never hear me say again.
Innit? I was like, Daily Mail, you're right there.
Like, yeah, just this is a severe one-off. But anyway, the head of the newspaper had some building work done by Neville, Stephen's dad, and he really liked and respected him as a person, and they got on really well. So he got
Yeah.
a connection to the case, and they decide to put the suspects' faces on the front page and out them as killers. And the headline, "If we're wrong, let them sue us," which none of them did, because
Yeah.
before then, because of their ages, they'd never been publicly named or pictured.
Oh yeah, because usually when you're under 18,
Yeah,
it you can't be named for legal reasons or
exactly.
some sorts like that.
Yeah. So this was like huge and it gets everyone's attention. It sparks another inquiry on the 31st of July 1997. And this is known as the Macpherson inquiry, named after the judge. So
Yeah.
judge looks at absolutely everything. So not just the evidence, but he looks at how the police handled the case and the racism that impacted it. So
Yeah.
it was known that the Metropolitan Police were incredibly racist as a police force, and it came to light that the police had been sabotaging the case and trying to get dirt on the Lawrence family. To
Oh,
yeah, these poor people, but there was no dirt because they're really nice people.
nice people.
Yeah,
Could tell by their names, silly.
I know. Leave Doreen and Neville alone.
Literally.
So
They're doing nothing but knitting and making nice food. Leave them be.
changing history, as we will see.
Yeah.
But so they also find out the police had been paid off for information by David Norris's dad, like one of the suspects. So the five suspects in the case are being cocky and rude. They know they can get away with it and do what they want, basically, because they know they can't be retried. So the public
Yeah.
are getting really pissed off with them outside of court. They start throwing stuff at them and shouting at them. So this has all been recognised in the Macpherson report, and huge changes in nationwide policing happen to like squash the discrimination in police forces. So this is what made hate crime illegal.
Yeah.
So that is like a massive step forward for the UK.
As if it weren't illegal
Yeah,
for hate crime to be a thing until like 1990 something. What the heck?
97, I think. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, 97.
So we're
I was like
literally in.
5
Yeah.
during my lifetime.
So fast forward to
Illegal.
2002 now, like this is still going on. Neil Acorn and David Norris got arrested when they start being racist towards an undercover police officer and threw a drink over him.
Oh.
Idiots. Gary Dobson's been arrested a few times for theft, drugs, and smaller offences as well. So, and I'm sure the others have been as well, to be honest, scumbags. But then the
Yeah.
law changed in 2005, which meant the men could be retried, which they didn't see coming. So
Yeah.
in November 2007, they test some blood and hair, which was found on Gary Dobson's coat and David Norris's jeans that they'd kept in evidence all this time. They couldn't have done this before because they didn't have the technology. So,
Yeah, I was going to say
yeah,
advancing technology at that point would have probably helped him out anyway. So,
yeah, exactly. So the DNA was found to be Stephen's, which means they were obviously very close to him when he died.
yeah.
So in September of 2010, both men are
Fuck.
arrested. I know. So David Norris and Gary Dobson go on trial, and finally, because of the forensic evidence, 19 years after Stephen's death, on the 3rd of January 2012, they're found guilty of murdering Stephen Lawrence. Finally. So
Jesus.
I know. So Dobson,
As if it took nearly fucking 20 years
I know, purely
for
because of
that.
racism as well. Like, it's ridiculous. So Dobson got a minimum of 15 years and Norris got a minimum of 14 because they were under 18 at the time of the offence. But still, Doreen was amazing throughout and fought for her son's justice, and it's thanks to her that policing changed throughout the UK. She started the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust, which helps disadvantaged young people get into good careers. They
Yeah.
literally do bursaries and everything and training. There's now also the Stephen Lawrence Award, which is an architectural award, the National Stephen Lawrence Day on the 22nd of April every year. And
Oh,
there's a Stephen Lawrence Research Centre and a Stephen Lawrence Community Centre, I think it is. So
bloody hell.
I know Doreen
He has
received,
made waves.
I know, like this is huge for like one death.
One person.
Yeah. So Doreen received a Lifetime Achievement Award and has since become a Baroness. And she works,
Ooh,
I know, she works to fight for race and diversity. So
yeah,
she is badass.
amazing. She's a badass bitch.
I know. The other three killers are still free, but they know what they did and they're out there leading very sad lives because although I guess Stephen didn't get to live, he literally has changed the UK. His legacy has become a lot more powerful than that sad bunch of racist lads. So
That's it.
that is Stephen Lawrence.
Guarantee all of them probably just turned to drugs, alcohol, and probably a few of them would have ended up on Jersey Kyle if he was still around.
100%. Oh, you can tell just by looking at him, like, nah. But then you look at Stephen and he looks so nice and genuine. I'll put a picture of him up. You'll see it and you'll recognize him. He like wears this black and white striped shirt and yeah, you'll recognize
Yeah.
him. But yeah, so that's the case of Stephen Lawrence.
Ooh.
Woohoo!
Another English. We've both done English ones again.
I know. So next time I think we'll be doing historical ones, won't we?
Yes.
So
Because these motherfuckers kill loads of people.
I know. It's because they could get
I was
so
literally on Murderpedia scrolling down on like female killers, I think I was on. And
yeah.
then, there's like a box for how many people. And every time it was like 300 and something. So I looked at it
Oh,
and it was like historical. And I was like,
oh my
these
God.
historical ones sound interesting.
It's like because of DNA and that, they could just do what they wanted pretty much.
Yeah,
It's
because they
mad.
didn't have all the technology that we have.
And
Like,
cameras, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
anywhere
Scary.
that we can watch now.
So that was that. And stay tuned to listen to our song of the week, and we will see you
Yeah.
next time.